demons. Or devils. If you play D&D, there's a big difference. Anyway, taking mythologies, then reinterpreting them into your own stories isn't actually new by any standards. Hell, some of the best literary works we've seen in history revolve around taking religious concepts, then reinterpreting them based on an artist's rendition. And today, I want to dive into one of my favorite reinterpretations of Lucifer Morningstar, specifically from the show Hazbin Hotel. Disclaimer, these are personal interpretations of the character, and especially for a show like Hazbin. I'm also trying to minimize my theorizing or headcanoning for this character, but instead just appreciate what I see on the screen. Also, this video has spoilers for Hazbin Hotel. Hazbin Hotel is an 8-episode series about the Princess of Hell, Charlie Morningstar, building a hotel to redeem sinners in order to hopefully fix the problem of overpopulation in Hell and to stop the exterminations. She believes that by redeeming these sinners, they can somehow ascend into heaven. And while the show has its flaws, I love shows that expand on demonology in general. It has a personal interest of mine. Lucifer Morningstar, the King of Hell, the deadly sin of pride, and the head honcho of Hell, was introduced in episode 5 but has been teased previously in art by Vivsipop in the pilot episode. Lucifer's depiction in Hazbin Hotel is interesting to say the least. He's a fallen angel responsible for giving humanity free will, but because this action caused sin to enter into Earth, he was punished severely by being cast out of heaven and forced to live amongst the sinners as their ruler. He also fell in love with the first woman of creation, Lilith, and they had a daughter together named Charlie Morningstar. This section of Hell featured in the show is known as the Pride Ring, one of the 7 rings that exist in Hell. This place is where the sinners are sent to, where they essentially live miserable lives, making other people miserable. Unlike his wife Lilith, who rose to power and established the kingdom, Lucifer slowly fell into a depressive state, almost as an atonement for what he has done. He's forced to live amongst the consequences of free will, and has to constantly see the people who abused the gift he gave them by using it for the worst. In the end, Lilith is currently separated from Lucifer, and the distance between him and his daughter also grew. From what we see in the show, he is a goofball masking his crumbling mental state by hyperfixating on creating rubber ducks. He has the motif of a marionette and a ringleader. His relationship with Charlie prior to episode 5 is rocky. While he does his best to reconnect with his daughter, the distance between them is significant, as we are told that Charlie has daddy issues. The problem with this is that because Hazbin Hotel has 8 episodes to play with, we don't actually see to what extent those issues are or what happened to Charlie. But throughout the episode, we see Lucifer being a well-meaning but difficult father figure in Charlie's life. He forgets small details like what they talked about in their previous calls, he doesn't seek out help as far as we are concerned, and Charlie feels that her own father couldn't support her dreams and wishes of convincing heaven that redemption is possible. However, in the end, it is revealed that the reason Lucifer is hesitant to support Charlie's goals is because he's scared that heaven will retaliate against her the same way that he was punished. Though we don't know the complete story of why Lucifer was cast down just yet, besides the lore of the apple giving to Eve, and maybe even meddling with humanity during Lilith's era, we can tell that his love for Charlie is genuine. And now onto why I absolutely adore this version of Lucifer. I've seen my fair share of characterizations for the Prince of Evil and Hell, from classical works like Paradise Lost to a literal Book of Lucifer PDF that I hope isn't real, to the more modern interpretations and iterations like the Netflix series. But they all have this impression of Lucifer as the literal golden angel who fell from grace but retains his superiority over all creation. Lucifer in most modern retellings and recontextualizations has this air of suave sophistication, which is heavily inspired from the biblical texts of him being one of the brightest angels, second only to God, as well as being the sin of pride. So when Hazbin Hotel introduced this bumbling, hilarious, and honestly coping father figure, a lot of the fandom was honestly questioning how this guy could be the king of hell, and this characterization sparked a lot of controversy because it was such a 180 from the Lucifer we're used to seeing in media. But when I delved deeper, I realized that this portrayal is just as complex as its other iterations. It takes the core beliefs about Lucifer and twists them into a unique perspective, though we need to remember that this is the devil, so be careful and don't actually go around starting a cult. First is the actual title itself, the King of Hell. When we hear the term itself, it gives us the impression of a powerful, almighty Prince of Darkness that's responsible for everything nasty about the world. But what does that title mean? Hazbin Hotel's Lucifer shows us the struggles of the actual title, and that it's nothing more than a crown of thorns placed upon an unwilling head. Lucifer was responsible for giving humanity free will, but was forced to live in hell as punishment for his ambitiously dangerous actions. His portrayal as an exhausted primordial entity just hammers down that this place, the kingdom that he supposedly rules over, just sucks. What he basically became is a king of the worst of humanity, and it was here that he lost faith, believing that redemption isn't even possible with the scum that wound up down here. You see, there's other layers of hell that aren't just composed of human sinners and mortal souls, and we actually see that these are thriving and sometimes even colorful places with their own cultures and rulers and nations. But the Pride Ring, which is Lucifer's domain, is specifically made to house the mortals that deserve to go to hell, which means that they're all probably dicks. And every day, this is his constant reminder that not only did he fall for these people, but a constant reminder that his once grand plans for humanity was the reason that these humans were even created. I really also like the interpretation that Lucifer also somewhat loathes sinners for taking the freedom that was given to them and then deliberately wasting that by committing atrocities, when it was supposed to be something akin to a gift. Overall, the interpretation of the King of Hell title isn't as grand as others make it out to be. The next aspect is as the sin of pride. It was this prideful dream he had for humanity that caused the downfall, after all, and how this show exhibits the term pride is much more complex. Pride, in its simplest form, can mean arrogance, overestimation, and overall want for validation, attention, and praise. Pride is the belief that you are better than others, but this iteration of Lucifer shows the different facets of pride, beyond just the surface level suave, and it also doesn't equate pride to just vanity or self-arrogance. It puts on a more somber tone of what pride is. It's the focus on oneself, both in terms of praise and punishment. My favorite saying that encapsulates Lucifer's interpretation of pride is that humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. Pride is an isolating sin, so much so that those who are prideful oftentimes push away the others they love because they're scared of facing criticism or rejection due to their perceived inability. Or maybe they don't even want to confront that inability and just want to pretend that things are going to be okay. Lucifer's jovial and goofy nature becomes a mask over his own insecurities and self-loathing, for not only failing to convince heaven about the potential of his grand plans, but also because his own attitude slowly isolated him from his own family. This is coupled with Lucifer's personality of being forgetful, distracted, and lack of social awareness that makes him seem like he doesn't care about Charlie, when he's just having a difficult time coping with his own problems and expressing what he truly feels. I won't be headcanoning any kind of mental situation that's going on with Lucifer since I am unqualified, so I'm going to be interpreting this as face value personality traits that are left for the audience to decide on. Another interesting note about Lucifer's interpretation is his difficult relationship with humanity. It's a subtle detail that someone pointed out in the comment section of a Hazbin Hotel video, but Charlie's reinterpretation of the creation history painted her parents in a very positive light, using words like love, dreamer, and gift. However, we don't actually know the full picture of the creation myth without Charlie's bias. It is important to note that Lucifer's regard for the sinners are almost with a defeatist acceptance, and this isn't entirely his fault. There's no proof right now that the individual actions and attitudes of the sinners were ever caused by Lucifer's intervention or temptation, but instead that they chose to be this way during their mortal life. It's not impossible for him to feel bitter and betrayed that his own ambition for humanity was what created all these kinds of monsters. But there is another side to this. Lucifer's inability to provide rulership as a genuine co-founder alongside Lilith turned the Pride Ring into something unruly. Of course, attempting to establish order in a realm of sinners is difficult, but not impossible, especially with control and power. We do see that at some points, soul trading and overlords became a thing that managed the smaller groups. However, Lucifer is interpreted as not having the mental resilience to push through with that kind of agenda, and that he is not exactly the ruling type either. This creates a rift between his perceived power and his actual level of authority in hell. As previously mentioned, Lilith was the one that thrived in hell and empowered demonkind. Why I like this retelling of the story is because 1, it establishes a new dynamic between Lucifer and humanity, where Lucifer isn't just the tempter of that broke humanity from inside, and instead as someone that was just looking in. And the second one is that it creates more agency for the sinners to be held accountable for their actions, because Lucifer isn't an anchor to justify their mortal lives. Think about it like this: had Lucifer been painted with a more direct role in causing humanity to sin with temptations and being the root of all evil, then there's a chance that the heartfelt story of redeeming sinners and helping people create mistakes from their mortal lives will fall apart, because now we have a common enemy to point our fingers at. But by removing Lucifer as this paragon, now we have an entirely different story on our hands, where humans' actions are caused by their own attitudes and that they need to fix their own problems. The third is Lucifer and the theme of redemption. Unlike other iterations of the devil, what makes Hazbin Hotel's perspective interesting is that Lucifer has no ulterior intentions of getting his revenge on Heaven. At least, not until Charlie was genuinely hurt and Heaven gave him a reason to retaliate. And as far as we are aware, he didn't have any grander narratives of wanting to return to Heaven or get vengeance on them. Rather, Lucifer's theme of redemption is something more personal and internal. It's the redemption of finally being there for Charlie when she needs someone to support her, both as a parent and as an authority figure. That, and I don't think it would be a great idea to try and empathize with the literal king of hell just from a meta-narrative religious perspective, just in case. Something religion, something. Now I do want to criticize Charlie and Lucifer's relationship, because the development between Charlie's problems with her dad and her reconciliation with her father happened literally in one episode. So I really hope that they expand these problems beyond just that. That this song isn't the ending to their development, but rather a start. And the last part that I like about his character is just the duality. I've always been a fan of characters that appear silly and goofy, but are actually some of the most powerful creatures on the block and are combat capable of wiping out legions. Lucifer overall is just a fun character to watch, and he definitely stole the show for a lot of the scenes. He's a supposed king of hell and the most powerful creature, but he's struggling with his own mental well-being and maybe using ducks as coping mechanisms, and even coming to terms that he has to dream again for his daughter. Overall, interpretations like this of established mythological characters are something that I find fascinating, especially when you introduce flaws and characteristics that are eccentric to their seemingly perfect historical portrayals. Now, is this portrayal unproblematic? That's up for you to decide. And my biggest gripe with Lucifer is just the genuine lack of time and on-screen development that he received because of the speed that the show has to execute to get from point A to point B. Hazbin Hotel has weird pacing issues, but I'm excited to see what's to come, especially with Lilith finally entering the fray. Anyway, my name is Aster and thank you for chilling with me.